it's Chris Gio. Welcome. Today is Tuesday, January 17, 2017, and I cannot believe that. I am really excited to continue our retail trend report from last week, which was about 90-day business planning for retailers. We have a cyclical business, and I want to get you all very, very good at preparing for, executing, and evaluating your plans by selling cycle. So this is part 2 of that process. Last week in part 1, I talked through and advocated the use of the Retail 454 calendar, which has been an industry standard since the 1940s. And if you listened and signed up, you will be receiving a bonus gift on Thursday. So what I'd recommend that you do is click on the button that says receive notifications from when I'm live. And go ahead and follow through the buttons and let me know that you're a retailer on merchantmethod.com, and I will send that to you on Thursday. I also talked through and shared with you how to conduct a comprehensive business review. It's a review that you should absolutely do every quarter and at the end of every year. And what I shared are the 6 key qualitative questions that you should ask of yourself and the 4 pillars through which you should use when you answer each question. That should go along with a quantitative analysis of your financials, but often we blow through the qualitative portion. And so I want you to really dive deep and really investigate your holiday selling season and your year. And you had homework, and your homework was to do just that. So this brings us to January week 3 and part 2 of planning your next 90 days of business. I will be recapping the results from holiday retail sales, and I will also be making recommendations to enhance your planning process. I know you have one. I'm not going to share basic information with you, but I am going to share some refreshers and reminders and give you some food for thought. So I want to start with a few announcements, and the first announcement is to grab your homework from last week. You will need it. I want you to have something to take notes with, like a paper and pencil, so you can write down these steps. And then after you watch this video, I want you to go into your calendar and set aside 1 to 2 hours to plan February, March, and April. It takes about that long if you are being rigorous in your process, which I recommend. One of my favorite quotes from Plato is, "The beginning is the most important part of the process." And if you spend your time cultivating the beginning, it makes working through each month, working through each week, working through each day a lot easier because you have direction. I also, again, want you to click the button so that you know when I'm live. So before we dive in and before I get to the results, I have 2 what I call merchant money tips. And the first is that we operate in a cyclical business, and a cyclical retail business is absolutely rewarded by the pursuit of rigor. It's rewarded by the pursuit of mastering the process of preparing for, executing, and evaluating each selling cycle. So you will be doing this over and over and over again, not because there's one way to do it, not because there's one truth or one answer, but because reviewing the steps, mastering that, being as meticulous as you can be will do a few things for you. It will reveal what you are very good at. It will reveal what the opportunities are. And when you have a better sense of what you're good at and what the opportunities are, you can take the next step to more profit. So get good at the 90-day process of planning, executing, and evaluating, because when you become good at it and you're able to really pick that low-hanging fruit, guess what? You will have committed customers that cast their vote with their cash. And that's what we want. We want committed customers that will pay us with their dollars. So let's talk about holiday results. I have done a lot of research. Articles have been posted as early as the first week of January through within the last 5 to 7 business days, which is why I wanted to wait. I like to aggregate all of the research and digest it for you. The consensus is that people spent more this holiday season than was forecasted and predicted. So that's like, if you need to know anything, people spent more. If you want to know a little more, I will share it with you. So the consensus, the forecast for the holiday season, which is November and December, they were pretty wide, from as conservative as a couple of percentage points of increase to as aggressive as 8%. But in the sweet spot, the National Retail Federation and Deloitte forecasted somewhere of a growth that would be between 3.6% and 4%. That was a greater growth year over year than last year. So they were saying people are going to spend even more. And what happened? People, in fact, spent more. The results are coming in at about 4% total increase in retail sales, which is fantastic. So National Retail Federation has it as a 4% increase. Last year, overall consumers spent $655.8 billion last year. This year it was $658.3 billion. First Data has overall spending as a 4.7% increase, so more, which is fantastic. We knew, and it was forecasted and predicted that online selling, and whatever that means for you, at a desktop, through a laptop, a tablet, a mobile device, capital O, capital L, online, capital M, mobile, was going to be a really meaningful influence and continue to capture more and more of that share of spend. And that is what happened. The forecast was anywhere from a 7 to 12% increase. And online sales came in at about 12%. To 12.6% growth over last year. It was a meaningful growth, and the contribution of online and non-store sales took up more of the overall spending than it did last year. And so it meant that brick and mortar stores took a hit. We knew what was going to happen. Early in the year, there were articles and articles and articles about how traditional retailers were closing a significant number of brick and mortar locations. But overall, spending was still up in brick and mortar stores by 1.6%. And this 1.6% growth is for stores that were open in the same format last year, stores that had been open for at least 2 years. When we talk about same-store sales or comparable sales, it allows us to say, hey, Apple, let's compare you to this other apple, versus, hey, Apple, let's compare you to an orange. We like to pull out same-store sales from total retail sales because the number of ways that we can sell to customers, we don't know what that's going to be like in 2018, 2016. We didn't know what that was going to be like at the end of 2015. So it keeps changing, and because they're incomparable, it's hard for us to mitigate the volatility. When you look at brick and mortar same store sales, you can mitigate the volatility by saying this store in the same format, in the same location that's been open for a couple of years. And that really allows us to see how we're moving the needle because you don't have that volatility. A 1.6% increase was really driven from the western regions and the Midwest regions, where growth was up, I think, about 3% in brick and mortar stores. In the Southwest, sales in brick and mortar stores was down by about 0.6%. It seems small, but when you're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars, it's a meaningful amount. And I want you to come back next week because I'm going to be talking a little bit more about how small businesses can use their size to their advantage. So that was selling. After last week's homework assignment And I know as you are working to get your books in order and evaluating your own business, I hope that gives you some flavor about how your business compares to overall capital R retail, how the industry is moving with you, or how you're moving alongside it. Maybe how you're just surpassing brick and mortar growth, which I hope that you are. I know my clients are. I hope that gives you a sense of where your business is and how you can think through February, March, and April, how you can plan to remain compelling in an increasingly competitive environment. So let's move on to planning your next 90 days. So here's some general notes and my own thoughts about how I have planned all the retail businesses that I've managed and guided, how I counsel and advise my clients to plan as well, particularly for small business owners, maybe without a counterpart, or co-owners that need support managing through a process when tiebreakers can't be broken with two people. Is number one, firstly, identify how you are going to organize your plan. There's not one system and one process that's going to work for any individual, and certainly not for all businesses. It's going to be a mix of things. And for me, it's a mix of physical paper planning and online planning. It's a mix of planning on my hard drive versus cloud-based planning. I take a different approach to planning my 3 to 5 year goals, yearly goals. Those two are the same. I take a unique approach or a mutually exclusive approach to planning my quarter and my month. That's one system. I take a different approach to planning my days and planning my weeks from a time management perspective. I do that through an online calendar. And then I have a whole separate system for planning all of the strategy and tactics around each big goal. It's a fourth system. I have a fifth system for managing my finances and a sixth system for managing my contacts. And it seems like the question would be obvious. Why would you have so many systems? The reason why I have so many systems is because they're good at what they do. Number one. Number two, I am in the business of assessing and comparing two things and looking for opportunities in how those two things are executed. I was born and raised in retail as a someone who reconciles. And when you are planning your business and spending a lot of time in the preparation process, it allows you to look at them and reconcile them and poke holes and see where the opportunities are and fix them before you move forward. So determine what's going to work for you. I have a priority planning tool. I have a paper planner that is a proprietary kind of system that I have. My weekly and daily calendar I run off of Google. I use Google for all of my business accounts. I use a project management software called Basecamp for brainstorming tactics and ideas. And most of my processing, spreadsheets, documents, slides are cloud-based. A lot of them I can keep on Google Drive because I can process in them. Some really standard things that never get changed, like photos, bios, they live in Dropbox as well because it's easy to send that link out. Once you determine what your system is, write it down and commit to it and commit to using it for at least 90 days. Here's why. For me, when I committed to brainstorming and project managing in Basecamp, I don't brainstorm on paper or on Post-its or on my planner or on cute stationery anymore. I just go right into Basecamp and start plugging around and mind mapping and playing in there. It saves me the time from duplicating things, and I already know I can run it through a system. If I know I am committing to a project deadline, I will open up my paper planner that is the immovable set in stone goal tool. I will put it in there in ink because that's what I hold myself accountable to. If I am toying around with an idea and I'm thinking through, wow, this is cherry on top, I don't write it in ink. I put it in my calendar that I can move, right? So I've got systems that are right for me. And when you know what's right for you, you can start moving and shaking and planning and executing based on what's right for you. There's a really good tool that Day Designer has on their website. I think it's called My Planning Process, and it allows you to determine what's going to be paper, what's going to be digital, and a space for you to write down where that lives. And it's a free tool on their website. I like it. The next thing is I want you to look at your priorities and revisit them. And so here's how I look at my priorities. I first, number one, start with what are my business values and what are my business guiding principles. These are the filters through which all of my choices run through. And when I have projects, I ask of that project or ask of that goal, how relevant are you to my business values? How relevant are you to my guiding principles? Because when you are forced to put your business values in numeric order and you're forced to give each of your projects or priorities a grade based on how relevant they are to your guiding principles, you come up with a true priority list. Just because you have 5 minutes to do something doesn't mean that you should do anything that can be done in 5 minutes, right? So it allows you to shape your time according to your values. So revisit that. I revisit mine every quarter. And then I want you to then think through in the next 90 days, what long-term goals and what short-term goals are you going to work on in February, March, and April? And you need to have both. So the reason why you need to have both long-term goals and short-term goals is that it gives you checks and balances. It holds you accountable. When you have short-term goals, you are able to move the needle in a short amount of time, right? You have quick wins. And so you can keep climbing up the arduous, steep mountain that is successful business. When you have long-term goals, it ensures that you are headed in the right direction. If you have a series of short-term goals and you just knock them off, they may never be related to your business values. They may never be related to your most relevant guiding principles or most relevant projects. And that's when you feel like your to-do list never gets done. That could feel like you're on a hamster wheel and all you're doing is staying at the forest floor, managing all of the tactics and not able to pull up to 1,000 feet. If you only have long-term goals, the day-to-day operations of your business gets left behind. As a business owner, it's okay for you to have a lot of long-term goals if you have someone that you trust that is really, really good at their role, really good at execution, really good at going the distance. They can manage some of that short-term stuff, but I'm sure you will have short-term goals that are related to your role. So based on whatever system is right for you, for me it's a paper system, plan February, March, and April at the same time. Do the diligence of looking that far forward. Take the risk of making commitments and setting goals. And I tend to set the long-term goals first. The big ones, the ones that are most relevant to your guiding principles, like the event that you want to have, the fashion show, the number of new customers that you want to acquire, the new marketing campaign, the new website, the new floor set, whatever the case may be, set those first. And then you'll want to go back into your short-term goals. And the reason why is you want those short-term goals connected to something. You don't just want to fill in a bunch of things that you can do just because you have the time. You want to do the things that are most meaningful. The reason why I like the paper planner for that is I like my goals to be milestones. I like to set them in stone because at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, it's not only enough to evaluate yourself on whether or not you achieved your goal, it's going to be important on whether or not you achieved your goal on time. And when I put it on ink on a piece of paper and put it up on my wall, I can hold myself accountable to that because I don't take liquid paper to it. On very rare occasion do I take liquid paper and move these goals around. After you set your long-term and your short-term goals, they could be milestone dates, they can be numeric goals, they can even be the number of hires. You will be able to develop almost like a Gantt chart or a process flow of when you need to start things in order to hit your deadline. You may have the same tool or a separate tool that then allows you to say, hi, goal 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are a lot of mini steps in here for you. So go to whatever system you might have. It could be your daily and weekly calendar. It could be a project management software like Basecamp, and type all of that in. And it's there in this way of managing your resources, of brainstorming every little step, that you're going to start to shape how you're going to reach your goals. As you shape it, make sure that you're shaping it smartly, right? So a SMART goal is a framework to set goals that make them achievable. And so if you don't know what a SMART goal is, Google it. It's an acronym that helps you make sure that your goals are specific, that they are measurable, that they are actionable, that they are realistic, and that they're time bound. So it separates what's out of your control from what's in your control. And as you pull all of this together in a process that works for you, right? You're setting aside at least 1 to 2 hours. You're going to start to see how you are utilizing your resources, what butts up against each other when you have overlapping due dates, how you can start to shift some of these goals before they're absolutely set in stone, how long you need to really give yourself to accomplish some of these goals. And that massaging process, that's the planning process. It's not the first draft, it's the second draft and the third draft that ensures success. So if you've gone through the rigor of planning, I invite you to spend another hour and poke holes in your process and look at it from a couple of different ways. Like someone who might be trying to break down a magic trick or figure out how an illusionist does it. It's rigorous. It's not academic, it's just rigorous. But you set yourself up for a lot of success. It's like meal planning, right? So that when you step into February and step into March, you've done the diligence and you're ticking away, and what you're doing in season is managing the exceptions. And it becomes much easier because you know where that exception fits into everything else around it. It is the difference between having 90 days of business for which you have more control over than you ever had in the past versus 90 days of business for which all you were doing was chasing the business. And you will love yourself for it. The thing that I will tell you is that you need to set firm limits for yourself and stick to them. Unless you have a board or unless you have people in your business with equity, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're by and large accountable to your customers and yourself, and your customers are forgiving, right? Your customers don't always know when you've blown past a deadline. That's why I like to have my quarter and my month planned well in advance, why I like to put ink to paper and post it up in a wall. That I've therefore empowered that tool to hold me accountable in a dispassionate way. And you can then respond to the business in the way that you see fit. But it's going to be important to hold yourself accountable. So here's the homework. The homework for you is to determine how you want to organize yourself. Number 2, put time on your calendar to plan. I would say 1 to 2 hours. If you're also going to do a financial plan associated with these 90 days, set in another hour. And I will tell you, it sounds like a lot of time, but it's more time chasing the business than it is to be prepared up front. Number 3, revisit your business values and assess the relevancy of what you want to do in the next 90 days against those values. Set long-term goals first. Lay in your short-term goals. And as you start to fill out and brainstorm all the things that need to happen in order to achieve your goals, make sure that your goals are SMART. And that's how you plan your 90 days. And the way that you would recap it is what I shared last week with the quarterly business review process. So you can see where I'm trying to get you is into a place of cyclical business planning, executing, and evaluating. You're going to keep doing this every 90 days. And the point is to get good at it this spring, this summer, this fall, so that you have your most competitive holiday in 2017. Join me next week. I want you to sign up for Merchant Method Trend Reports because I will continue to share additional information. I will share the resources for the data that I use to support these trend reports so you can see for yourself and discover for yourself and encourage that mental rigor. And I will see you next week. Thank you.